Buck McKeon came to town in 1964 to help run the family business in a section of Saugus that we now call Canyon Country. He was the oldest of 5 sons, born to Howard and Phyllis McKeon, and he quickly took on a management role, while Buck and his young bride, Patricia, were starting a family of their own. The Santa Clarita Valley was undergoing a transformation as farm and ranch lands started to give way to housing tracts. Buck was recognized as a leader in business, in his growing family, in his church. Active in youth and family organizations like the Boy Scouts and Little League, he got involved on a community-wide level as a board member of Henry Mayo Hospital, the Chamber of Commerce, and eventually the new Valencia National Bank. Meantime, in 1979, the seeds of Buck's political life were planted with his election to the Hart High School Board. The next decade would bring major changes as the valley's population exploded and the new residents clamored for self-governance. 2 unsuccessful attempts to form a county in the 1970s led to the formation of a new city in 1987. Out of a whopping 26 candidates on that first city council ballot, Buck McKeon garnered the most votes, and Santa Clarita had a mayor. The responsibility fell on Buck to transform the dream of cityhood into a working reality.
There was no book. He was professional. He knew what he had to do. We needed to have space. We needed to start operating right away, and we had to set up for what any business does. We had to have bank accounts, and we had to have city attorney. We had to have treasurers. We had to have everything a business needs, and he set forth in getting that done right away. He's really a family man. He has a large family. So I think city was just like a bigger family. It's just, I've got more people to take care of, and he does that well. He was really big on making sure that we had great parks, very supportive of our kids having wonderful programs, having good parks to be in, get those things funded. He's a strong supporter of our trails. I think that's a legacy that started right out at the beginning, and we have had the strongest commitment in our community to those family values and to keeping our kids out of trouble, into appropriate programs. And I think his view on that was brilliant right off the bat.
It was not long after city formation that an opportunity arose for the Santa Clarita Valley to field its own candidate for Congress. Local movers and shakers decided that Buck McKeon, the popular first mayor, was best positioned to go for the seat. So in 1992, we sent our very own Mr. Smith off to Washington. 2 years later, Republicans took the House of Representatives just as Santa Clarita residents were knee-deep in their fight to stop a proposed landfill from destroying a pristine oak-studded canyon east of Newhall known as Elsmere.
It was a critically detrimental issue for Santa Clarita. Part of that was in the Angeles National Forest. So his effort was to do legislation to remove any possibility for a landfill to be in the Angeles National Forest. And so he did that legislation in a bipartisan manner with Senator Boxer. And I commend him for, brand new congressman right out of the chute, having to work on something that difficult, and it wasn't just like doing a playground. This is something that had huge corporate interest.
McKeon is my wilderness champion. In 2009, he managed to get 470,000 acres into wilderness, and most of that acreage was in the Eastern Sierra, but we got 42,000 acres in our district, and that is Pleasant View Ridge, which is near Palmdale, Magic Mountain Wilderness, which is just east of the city of Santa Clarita, and we also got a wild and scenic river, Piru, which is about 20 minutes north of here. One of the most exciting things to me is when he got Magic Mountain into wilderness, the condors who hadn't nested in the area for 60 years came back, and this year the very first condor fledged, and we have a condor family living in Santa Clarita again, which is just outrageously wonderful.
Environmental threats kept popping up. Year after year, Buck McKeon submitted legislation to block a federally approved gravel mining operation in Soledad Canyon. Today, nearly a quarter century after those contracts were first signed, the mining project still hasn't happened. What did happen back in those days was gridlock. Buck could tell you what traffic was like when he served on the city council. He didn't forget it when he was in Washington. Working with the new city leadership, as well as the Chamber of Commerce and the development community, Buck secured millions of federal dollars to complete an east-west highway connecting the 5 and 14 freeways through town. Now, maybe it had something to do with his days as a high school board member and business leader, but back in D.C., Buck acted on his commitment to lifelong learning. He was the ranking member on the House Education Committee, and he served on House subcommittees on higher education, workforce training, and 21st century competitiveness. Buck helped negotiate federal student loan interest rates to their lowest level in 38 years, and he fought for programs offering counseling, vocational training, and college education for U.S. military veterans. And then there was the transformation of COC into what is effectively a 4-year institution of higher learning wrapped in a 2-year junior college's clothing.
He was able to secure some federal funding for our interim university center, which gave us a chance back in 2002, 3, 4 to test our idea of bringing access to higher education, bachelor's and master's degrees to our campus. Some of the funding that he brought to us enabled to contribute to the construction of the permanent university center. It enabled us to staff the interim university center and to develop the programming that was needed. He understood that in order for things to be better for our valley, individuals and entities needed to collaborate, they needed to be entrepreneurial, they needed to communicate, and they needed to be transformational in what they perceived was possible.
As co-chair of the Economic Development Corporation, he's been very encouraging to us, and we started this several years ago, and we were under the deadline to get our nonprofit corporation approved, and we ran into roadblocks. John Chaffrey, a good friend of ours, and Bucks called him and walked him through what we were trying to accomplish, and lo and behold, we had an approval within a week. So we thank him for that, and since that time, the Economic Development Corporation has been very successful. We keep him advised of what we're trying to accomplish and recruiting businesses to this valley, and anytime we need help, he's there for us.
Championing lifelong learning, improving transportation, protecting the environment, these are just some of the components of the legacy Buck McKeon has carved out here at home. His influence goes way beyond that. From his very first term in Congress, Buck McKeon was a leader in the fight to save the B-2 bomber program. It was an in-district issue which, like so many others, had national and even international implications. From manned and unmanned weapons programs to the deleterious effects of sequestration, which threatened to gut the military to levels not seen in modern history, Buck McKeon dealt with all of it as chairman of the powerful House Armed Services Committee.
Over the past year and a half that I've been Secretary of Defense, I've counted on Buck's advice, his honesty, his insights, and yes, his friendship. Buck McKeon is a man of equal doses of immense courtesy, devotion, ability, and character. It's rare, especially these days in our politics, to find an elected leader as open to a vigorous debate and different opinions, but yet respectful of others' opinions and points of view, and willing to always listen as Buck McKeon.
Well, the thing about Buck is that he's likable. And everybody likes Buck because he's nice to people. And as a result, he's able to work with members on both sides of the aisle, resolve big issues as well as small. And I think it's that ability to work across the aisle and to work with people that's made him so successful.
Through your 11 terms in office as a representative of the people of California, you worked tirelessly to provide our nation the finest fighting force in the world. You've earned a reputation in the House of Representatives and our Corps as a generous, caring, dependable, and compassionate friend of us. Know that when you walk out of the doors of the House Armed Services Committee, and he will do that for the last time in late December, and you move into the next part of your life, my notes here say retirement, but I know better than that. You move into the next half of yours and Patricia's life, Every single person in this room tonight knows that the House Armed Services Committee is losing a gentleman and a statesman.
In my mind, he is an amazing role model for selfless service and for shaping change and for courageous leadership.
Not every congressman can say that they've been the Armed Forces chair. He was in charge or in control of one of the largest budgets, if not the largest budget in Washington. And I admire him for that, and I admire him for all the respect he's brought to his office. He's always been there for this community, in my opinion.
You know, Don, you always say you can never be more first-star. And Buck, it was on our first city council and our first mayor. He's the first congressman I can just pick up a phone and call, and he's one of the first friends we made when we came to Santa Clarita. We're just grateful for his friendship and for his leadership. And the John Fuller Award so suits what he has done for all of us here in Santa Clarita and in our beautiful, proud United States.